Welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Jay. I got a special guest in the building. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey y'all, hey, my name is Kia. I am known on Instagram and everywhere else on social media as Kia Smith Writes, and I'm an author.
All right, so did you always want to be an author, or that was just something that just happened?
No, I always wanted to be an author. I've been writing since probably the first story I ever wrote was probably in first or second grade. And I was one of those kids who always used to fill up notebooks and stuff with just different short stories. And so I always knew that I was going to write books. I just never knew when. And I started writing my book 2 years ago almost. But to answer your question, yeah, I always knew that I was going to be an author, wanted to be an author, and I made it happen. So.
All right, so that just definitely was always on your vision board.
Yeah.
So, all right, with you always want to be an author, what made you want to write the book you wrote? Well, no, backtrack. Was this your first technically book you ever wrote?
Yep, this is the first book I ever wrote and published. Like I said, I've written a number of short stories. I was blogging. Well, I still am a blogger, but I was blogging before that for 8 years. I just celebrated 8 years in January at the top of this year. I was writing for magazines in high school. So in high school, I was a part of True Star Magazine, which is an after-school matters program that basically teaches the ins and outs of running a media company. So we had the editorial team, we had a marketing team, we had radio, we had graphic design, sales and marketing, just all these different things that you teach to teenagers. And that's kind of how I got my feet wet. Really seeing that being a professional writer was actually something that was feasible in a sense.
So starting off as a blogger, was the transition to go from blogging to actually writing in a real newspaper, was that a difficult transition?
Yeah, kind of, because as a blogger, you really don't have any rules in a sense. Well, you didn't back in the day. In 2012, you didn't really have rules as far as being a blogger. It's not a certain style or guideline that you have to follow. And when I in college was actually when I first started writing for newspapers. I wrote for my college newspaper for a little bit before I got fired.
Hold on, we can't skip over that.
I know, we ain't gonna skip over it.
How you get fired?
I got fired because I was black.
Oh, okay.
Dead ass. But no, I was the only black person, black woman on top of that in the newsroom. So I went to a predominantly white institution, only black person, and it was just I had a lot of eyes on me or whatever. And the unfortunate thing, it's like a double-edged sword. So the good thing about being the only black person in a newsroom is that you're the black voice, or you're looked at as the black voice. But that's also a double-edged sword, because people often feel like you're obligated to write about them and tell their stories just because they're black.
Right.
Regardless if it makes sense or anything like that. People love good publicity, and a lot of times I think people look at black journalists as publicists. And we're not publicists. We're journalists. So we're gonna tell different types of stories. If you only want good news about you in the news, or good media created around you, hire a publicist. So that was something I had to learn. And then just dealing with microaggressions as far as being the only black person in the newsroom. It was not culturally diverse at all. And me and the editor-in-chief at the time, we just got into it. We got into it. First, it was my stories weren't diverse enough. Then she accused me of not holding up journalistic integrity by writing a story about someone that I allegedly worked for. I did not work for this person.
Right.
I simply sought them out. The black community tends to be very close at my alma mater. And I was known on campus for being a blogger, being a writer, right, being someone who is like super friendly and just like cool. Like I was just cool with a lot of people. So when this person was like, "Hey, I got this app coming out. Can I get an interview about it?" Yeah, I'll interview about it because that's dope as hell. Like I've never met a black person who made an app before at that time.
Right.
These people started lurking my Twitter. They just white people can be like incredibly insufferable, honestly. Especially like if you are the only black person in that space. So first I got suspended because they felt like my stories weren't being diverse enough. When really they could have like took me under their wing and mentored me and said, "Hey, you know, you're really used to being a blogger, but this is how you be a journalist." Right. You know. And then it was the whole, "Oh, you're not being honest about your connections, so we're gonna fire you."
It sounded like they plotted on you for a little while. First with the suspension, and then they found a way to get you out the door. So speaking on that situation, like I don't know what it's like to be a black woman. You know what I'm saying? I know what it's like to be a black man, and I've never personally asked a black woman like the trials and tribulations that y'all go through on a daily basis, especially in a professional work environment. So go ahead.
So being a black woman, it's weird in a professional space. It's weird because we deal with both racism and sexism at the same time. It's not anything that I can't take off my blackness or my womanhood, you know, because I identify as a woman. I was born a woman. I identify as a woman, and it's constantly like a double-edged sword. So in a professional space, you're either going to be tokenized, or you're like, they just like really nitpicky. And like we from Chicago, so we know when like people are being lame.
Right, when people,
you know, like
bullshit.
Like y'all being lame as hell. Like you don't talk like that. Why are you trying to like?
I hate that with a fucking passion. And they always say they speaking proper. Like, no, you not.
No, you're not.
You're
like
changing your pitch and everything.
Exactly. Like you're trying to appeal, and now everybody want to listen to hip hop music in the damn office. Can I curse?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. In the newsroom or in the office, or y'all want to name drop people, or y'all have questions about hair. Like hair was probably like the biggest thing about being like the only in a professional setting. Like I used to work in the office before I became the executive director. So we had something called the Student Programming Council. Okay. I started off as a secretary of the Student Programming Council office. I eventually worked my way up to being the executive director of the Student Programming Council. But before that, I was a secretary, and we used to have this white boss, and he just used to like make some very underhanded questions about my fro, because I used to wear around that time, like for a little bit, I'll let my natural hair breathe a little bit, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to the office with a fro. It's the summertime, like I just need to let my hair breathe. What seems normal to us, that's very normal to us. Like, of course, a black woman is not gonna like have weaves and wigs and braids and stuff in all the time. Right. But to white people act like you just a whole new person to them. Like, if I got braids in today, and if I come tomorrow, and it's like, oh my God, your hair.
It's different.
It's so different. You look so different. And I think he asked me like something straight up, like, what you gonna do with your hair? And I was like, excuse me? Or whatever. And it's just like dealing with stuff like that, it can be incredibly annoying. I've worked in nonprofit spaces where I was the only one, and most of the nonprofits that I've worked for, they service inner city essentially. And just the questions with that, just peeping how they move, and it's like you're being tokenized. And needless to say, I'm glad I work for myself now, because navigating a space as a black woman in professional settings, it gets really nerve-wracking. If you're not sure of yourself, you will question yourself a lot. And it's just annoying. It's just, at the end of the day, it's just really, really annoying. And like, I've never been someone who wanted to conform tried to conform, it was just like, you're gonna take me as I am. But honestly, I don't even blame the black people who do conform, because it's a survival technique, you know. Right. It's survival. So yeah,
you've been through a little rocky start, you know what I'm saying, jumping into the journalistic field.
Yep.
And then you start writing for the Chicago Defender.
I do.
So how did that come about?
So I am a member of this organization called Black Bloggers Chicago. It was founded by a woman named Danielle Sanders. And basically it's a network for those who are into blogging to connect with each other, have opportunities, support one another. We have like quarterly meetups and stuff like that. We share resources with each other as far as that. I'm like the youngest, honestly. I'm the youngest in that organization. It's a lot of older people that are like in their 30s and their 40s, and I think a couple of people are in like their 50s. But Danielle somehow secured a partnership with the Chicago Defender, because the Chicago Defender was looking for people to contribute to their website because they went digital. Like, I don't even think, I was just talking to my mom about this today, because she was like, oh, I read your article, but do you get the newspapers? Do they still print? I said, I don't know if they still print the newspaper, but the Chicago Defender is it used to be called the Black Dispatch. Like, if you have older parents that are from Chicago, they know, oh, it's the Black Dispatch. But they also have it in like Detroit, Houston, New York, Atlanta, like all the major cities where black people are. They have the Defender like series.
Yeah, I read something that said they was like the number 2 as far as like newspaper go. So and then they was number 1 as far as the African American community. So I was like, damn. I knew the Chicago Defender was big, but I didn't know it was like that big.
Yeah, the history is like really, really amazing. So Danielle secured that partnership. They wanted people to contribute to the website, and so she presented it to us, and I've been writing. I started writing for the Defender, I want to say in January. Like the deals were made in January. It's like, okay, it's about maybe like 12 to 15 of us in the group, and we contribute content to them monthly. So that's really cool.
All right, so I read your most recent article about Father Pfleger and him saying saying that it should have been Chicago construction companies actually working in Chicago
Black-owned
neighborhoods.
businesses,
So
black-owned construction companies.
Did you actually choose that article to write about?
Yeah, so I had saw the status because I follow Father Pfleger, and something that the Chicago Defender is really, really known for is their opinion pieces. Like their opinion pieces used to shake up some shit, you know, in the city. And I was just like, this is interesting. And so I talked to the president about it. She's like, yeah, go ahead. I was like, I never did an opinion piece for the Defender before. It's usually I do profile pieces. I'm interviewing somebody, I'm doing profile pieces. People are usually pitching me to like interview them or interview their client. Like, I know quite a few publicists and different things like that. And so I was like, let me just, you know, I want to explore this, because it made a little noise on Facebook, but not a lot of noise, you know. And I do think it's something interesting. Like, you know, if you are in a black neighborhood and you are trying to rebuild the neighborhood, why aren't you utilizing black-owned businesses, black-owned construction workers, just different things like that? Because I was doing some research, and it's allegedly the black dollar only lasts about 6 hours in our community. That's problematic. So I get where Father Pfleger is coming from with that. Like, you know, I don't know why I do think that we can't start a business to get ourselves out of oppression. Like, just having black-owned business is not the only thing that we could do to get ourselves out of this oppressed state that we're in, but it is one avenue. But I do feel like utilize who you have in your community. Put people to work in your community. You know, even though it is a Walgreens and that's a major corporation, and that's not a black-owned, but people on 79th where St. Sabina and stuff is, they utilize that. Like, you know, and that's they utilize those resources. And unless somebody is going to come in and build a black-owned thing that can compete with Walgreens or whatever the likes may be, I think it's important to utilize who you have in your businesses, because there are a lot of people out of work, and people can use that money.
Facts.
You know, people can use that money. So
now, with that being your first opinion piece, do you see yourself? Well, was that something that you enjoy doing, and it's cracking now, right?
yeah, because it reminds me of like blogging days. Like, don't get me wrong, I love storytelling. Like, I'm a storyteller. I will tell you a story. I love talking to people. I love getting to know them. I love learning what makes you tick. What why are you doing this? What makes you happy each day? Different things like that. But I also love sharing my opinions. Right. And I love having friendly debates with people. I like picking people's brains. So I do see myself doing even more opinion pieces as time goes on.
Now, with you basically becoming the voice of urban America, Chicago, however you want to label it, you know what I'm saying? Just off that first piece, like, what are some black businesses that you enjoy spending your money with?
Oh, so many. Let's start with restaurants, because I love food. As far as the restaurants go, yesterday my friends and I checked out Flav's. It's the salmon egg rolls for me, because that oh my God, those are a hit. Ain't She Sweet? It's pretty good on 43rd. I go to the one on 43rd, but I think it's one in Beverly as well. They have a jerk salmon wrap that is really, really good. Like, I feel like I need to eat it every other day. What else do I like? I like Soul Shack. I like Soleil. It's this spot in Homewood called Sabrina's, the soul food spot. Jamaican food is my fave, so shout out to Jerk Villa. I love Jerk Villa. I love Jamaican food. But as far as clothes and stuff like that, I really, really like Sweat Spot Stew. The Chicago Girls Hustle Harder tee. I like that. I really like, who else do I wear? I wear a lot of stuff. My friend Bree, she is a designer, and she just dropped her first collection. She usually does prom stuff and custom dresses, but Shop King B, she just dropped her collection, and I purchased a couple items. I really love like crystal jewelry, crystals in general, just a lot of spiritual things. So shout out to Hilversation on Instagram. They just gifted me with a care package, like full of like 12, 14 crystals, different crystals, and some of my favorites. I really, really like sunglasses. I like supporting other authors, so shout out to my girl Mimi Jermisha, the busy brown girl. She's working on her third book, but she has 2 books out. So it's a lot.
You definitely rolled off a lot of names.
It's a lot. I was always a person. I'm a supportive person in general. So if I like what you're doing, and I'm gonna shop with you,
right? And
that is really simple to me. So, shout out Bree Specific. I love candles. Her candles are amazing. She also has custom incense as well. Love it. So it's a lot. Like, I'm just thinking, I got a vision in my head, and I'm looking in my house. I'm like, damn, I have a lot of black owned stuff, and that's how it should be.
So how important is it for you to actually support your community like you doing?
It's super important. Whether I know you or not. I think if people are taking a risk to follow their passion, who would I be to not support? Right. Now, of course, nobody is obligated to support you, but like I said, if I like what you're doing, I like what you got going on, I'm gonna support it. And it's not a big deal to me, to do it. It's kind of like second nature for me, in a sense.
Now, you know what I hate to hear? Because it's a lot of people in Chicago that's like you, that love supporting their people, that love spending their money with black-owned businesses, but it's always people that's gonna say, I'm not gonna shop black because bad customer service. And you go to White Castle or something, and you get the same horrible service, yet you don't go on IG and tweet that.
Yeah, I think what it is that black people, we unfortunately hold each other to some very interesting standards. Like you just said, y'all will complain about somebody being late or just different things like that, but you're not hitting up Walmart, Walgreens, Wendy's, White Castle. You're not doing that to them. And I think that's because a lot of black business owners are, fortunately and unfortunately, too accessible. Like, we just too accessible. Like, you could literally follow somebody on Instagram and purchase from them, or go to their website, or you friends with them on Facebook or Twitter, and you can literally harass them like, hey, where's my order? I get so many questions about, where's my book? It's like, okay, once I ship this book off, it's out of my control as far as, you know, how fast it's gonna come to you, but it's coming to you. Right. And then the other thing is, like, yeah, that is annoying, you know, that people don't be wanting to shop black. It's just like, okay, well, this may have been your experience, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't shop black just because you had this one negative experience. Now, I will say, as far as like customer service goes, like, I think as a black business owner, we could work on communication. We can work on our accessibility. Some black businesses underestimate their capacity, so they are like really understaffed. But you have to understand, like, the scale of it is, some of these businesses are family ran and operated. Some people are one man shows, you know. Thanks. So it's like we have to bring compassion back into shopping and buying black. And then another argument that I have to buying black, though, is that it's not always accessible for people because they have a certain niche. If it does not include all black people, why are we steady pushing this narrative that, everybody needs to shop black, shop black, shop black? Like, right. Let's talk about grocery stores, for example. So now, of course, you know, with everything that's going on in the world, everybody's like, we got to shop black. And, you know, it's starting with our grocery stores. And I was just like, hey, okay, yeah, great. But a lot of us live in food deserts.
Facts.
A lot of us live in food
got
deserts.
Caught in.
Exactly.
At a certain time, it's over with.
Exactly. So it's kind of just like, you gonna go and deliver some groceries to Granny in the hood, right, or you just gonna type your fingers on this internet and be like, well, if you ain't buying black, blah blah this, blah blah that. You have to. There is a certain level of elitism and classism that comes with being able to shop and buy black, because it's not accessible for everybody. It's not obtainable for everybody. Right. It's just not. And I had challenged somebody on that, because I'm just like, and of course nobody had an answer for me. And you have to think about it. Now, the people that I was in conversation with, college educated, they have nice jobs, work in marketing, like work for different like marketing firms and different things like that. And it's just like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you could get in your car and drive 30, 40 minutes away to the nearest black-owned grocery store. Right. But, like, what about the people who live on the low end or in the hundreds or, you know, in Auburn Gresham or Chatham? If my grocery store is up the street at Walgreens or Jewel's, that's where I'm going. It's not because we're not shopping black because we don't like black people or we don't, you know, trust them. Some of us are like that, though, and that's just weird as hell to me. Right. But that's what you call, some people just believe the white man's water is colder, which is some weird shit, but Preach. I get it. Like, I get it, because that's like internalized like anti-blackness. So I get why some people think like that, but that's some stuff I don't mess with. But people are not choosing to not shop black because they don't like black people. Sometimes convenience is important, and that's the hill that I'm willing to die on. Convenience is important, and unless somebody gonna come in and pick up these families and take them to the grocery store or build one, since everybody want to put their money together and talk about how we need this, that, and the third, and build one to plop in the middle of the hood, I don't want to hear it.
like you say, I think now it's a super weird time to be black, period. Because now it's like everybody is pandering to us. Everybody is like, oh, Black Lives Matter. And we know it's not true. Like, it seems like everything come down to the bottom line, no matter how big or little a company is. Even with, like on Juneteenth. Like, I realized if I had some Juneteenth flags, I would have made a killing that day.
Yep.
Because people was pulling up like where the flags at. Damn, that's a money to be made off what currently is the black struggle.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how we now are like, okay, yeah, I'm black, I'm beautiful. When you always were black and you always was beautiful. So
yeah, I think it's cool. Juneteenth was lit. Okay,
it was
so lit.
I ain't never seen nothing like that before.
I had a ball. Like, and you know what? I think it's okay for us to be woke up. It's never too late to tap into like who you are, what your history, what your culture is. It's never too late because you got to think about it. We didn't learn about Juneteenth in school.
Fact.
I never heard of Juneteenth ever. I have not heard of I heard of Juneteenth in college, and the reason why I heard about it was because my minor was Africana Studies. So I wanted to study black people because I thought it was lit, and I wanted to get more in tune with my culture. And I was influenced by the show, my favorite show, A Different World. Saw an episode, they were in the Black Studies class, and I was like, Here I was, a freshman, second semester freshman. I was just like, you know what? Sign me up. Like, I want to see what's to it. Best decision I ever made. Decided, you know what? I like this stuff so much because I really, really like history. I'm going to just minor in it. Like, I'm a minor in it. Why not? You know, and that was fun. But it's never too late to like tap into who you are, what your culture is. Like, I never shame people for like not knowing certain things. Like, I was just having a conversation with my mom this morning, and she was just like, you know, and she don't do social media. She didn't go to college. So she was just like, you know, it's so much stuff like I just did not know about, you know, my culture and our culture and just different things like that. And she's like, I just feel bad because I feel like I'm too old to not know these things. I said, no, you're not too old. Right. Like, Mom, you was born in 1968. You grew up in the 70s and the 80s. They were not teaching. Right. They definitely wasn't teaching none of this in school. Party. Exactly. They weren't teaching any of this in school. Your parents came from the South, migrated to the North. So it's kind of just like they probably did not know, because Juneteenth in particular is really particular to Texas, because from what I was reading, it's the day that the slaves in Texas were informed, like, oh yeah, the Emancipation Proclamation was signed 2 years prior. You're technically free. But as I was telling my mom this morning, slavery never really got technically abolished because we still have mass incarceration, the prison industrial complex. And then really, if you think about it, like the 13th Amendment, but then there's a clause in there like, yes, slavery is illegal but unless you do a crime. And if you do a crime, you're going to jail, and we're going to use jail labor. Right. So, but you're never too old. Never too old to know.
All right, let's switch it up a little bit. I was on your IG, and you made a statement.
I say?
It said, I own every part. No, it say you own every part of your self-love journey, including the fuck-ups. So can you explain the importance of accepting your personal mistakes?
It's important. Like, you shouldn't hold it. And this is something like I am in therapy about and learning. Like, it is important to not hold your past against you. You don't have to make yourself a prisoner for past mistakes. You're gonna make mistakes. The journey of loving yourself is not easy. It's very hard. You're gonna slip up. I have slipped up, and you know, and it made me feel a type of way, because I'm just like, yo, you know, I'm supposed to be like promoting this self-love journey and all this self-love stuff, but like here I am still messing up. And then it's just like, well, is it perfect? Do you have to be perfect? And I'm just like, no, I don't gotta be perfect. It's like, okay, well then you need to own every part of your journey, because that just what makes it more real. Nobody is up and deciding like, okay, yo, I'm gonna practice self-love and I'm gonna always get it right every single time. It is a journey, and like most journeys, we have setbacks, we have bumps in the roads, we have just like all these different things, you know. And I had to learn how to own all of that, and that is what makes me love myself even more, because I love myself to acknowledge my growth, but also acknowledge like where I'm still struggling at, and that's okay.
Let's jump right into the book now. Now, what made you say, I want to write this love letter to myself?
So in 2016, so it's called Write Yourself a Love Letter Challenge. I was in undergrad, summer of 2016. I was 22. And I was taking a class on social media and basically how people evaluate, or I had to evaluate how people interacted with social media, which is funny because later on, I got into like social media management, just different things like that. But I was taking this class. It was a random summer class that I needed just to like get some credits. It really didn't even have anything to do with my major at the time. And so my instructor wanted us to basically do some type of social experiment on a platform and basically analyze like how people interacted with it or responded to it. So around that time, I had been blogging for 4 years, and I was just like, okay, I know I want to use my blog for something, because this would be easy. And and then I was like, but what do I do, right? So I was looking on Facebook, and I noticed at that time people were like doing a lot of challenges. So like you had your real hair challenge, you had your no makeup challenge, like post your plate challenge, post your baby daddy challenge, like just all these challenges. Right. But I didn't see anybody talking about self-love or, you know, what it meant to love yourself. Like we talk about relationships all day long on, you know, social media, but like I ain't really see nobody, especially like in my age range, like I didn't really see anybody like talking about self-love. So I was like, you know what, I like to write. I understand the practice of journaling and how it is a very good mental health and self-care exercise. I'm gonna do something called Write Yourself a Love Letter Challenge. And basically what you had to do was post a picture of yourself, write a love letter. Like start it off, you gotta address it. So to Kia, from Kia, love Kia, you know. So you would like replace my name with like yours or whatever. And like you would write nice things about yourself. That was the only rule. Like you couldn't talk down on yourself, like you just had to write nice things. It sounds so simple, right? It sounds really, really simple, but it was so hard for a lot of people to do because I was asking them to be vulnerable. Number one, I was asking them to be public and vulnerable. Right. Number two, and the truth is a lot of people are not really used to speaking life into themselves. They're not used to saying nice things to themselves. They don't know where to start. There's some people just simply do not know how to journal. Like, what do you mean write down my feelings and my thoughts? Why would I do that? Right. People are not used to that. They're not used to it. And it went kind of viral on Facebook. Like a lot of people participated in it, like a lot, and they had to tag me. So and then it kicked off. That's what kind of like kicked off this whole Write Yourself a Love Letter Challenge thing. So while I was in college, I used to volunteer for an organization called the Women's Center, and it was an organization that served women, their partners, non-offending partners, and children who were survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. And one of the directors of the Women's Center, she reached out to me. She was like, hey, I saw your love letter thing on Facebook. And she was like, can you like host a workshop where we have the women write a love letter to themselves, and it was on Valentine's Day 2017. So that was like the first time I was like, oh, okay. And so it wasn't how it usually is, which I'll get to in a minute, but so we talked about self-love. A lot of the women shared like their stories of, you know, just overcoming. Like it was a lot of domestic violence survivors in there, so like overcoming and like learning to love themselves and putting the pieces back together, and like how they feeling like on Valentine's Day, which is heavily marketed towards couples. How does it feel to like be single and alone, and you know now they just got it's themselves or them and them kids, and you know it was interesting. So, and then they wrote love letters to themselves. Some people did poems. Some people sang songs. Like, it was beautiful. Later that year in 2017, I graduated. I moved back home to the city, and I wanted to like get reacclimated to the city, because when I left the city, I was known as Queen K, your hip hop blogger, you know, the person who interviewed King Louis, Katie Got Bands, you know, just like all these different, you know, up and coming Chicago artists. But through it, while I was in college, I rebranded because I was just like, moving away from like this hip hop blogger, like I don't really like it no more.
Trust me.
Yeah. And I just, you know, I want to give people the real, because people are like going through real stuff. So I rebranded into Kia Smith Writes. And so I was just like, I really want to do something. I want to have an event, but I don't know what to do. And so in 2018, I got my ideas just randomly pop in my head, and I write them down. And so I'm thinking one night, and I was like, I really want to do something. And then it just popped into my head. Write yourself a love letter challenge to life. Like, bring it to life as a self-love workshop. Like, you've been to events. You planned events all throughout college. Like, you know how to plan events. Like, you could do this. I was just like, I am really scared self. Right. And myself said, so what? We're going to do it anyway. And that's pretty much how all my decisions start. Like, I really be scared about a lot of the things that I do, but I just do it anyway. That's the good side of being impulsive kicking in. But so 2018, I was like, okay, gonna have an event. It's gonna be a self-love workshop. I'm gonna ask people questions. We're gonna talk about it. This is a safe space. We're gonna be vulnerable. And then at the end, you gotta write a love letter to yourself, and you gotta read it out loud. So
that's
again,
the hard.
That was the hard part. That was the hard part, but it did well. My first event, it was cool. It did well. 2019, I had it on my 25th birthday, and it was bigger. It was better. It was a sold out event. We had drinks, food, and it was good. Like, it was good. And then this past March 15th, right before Rona said we couldn't go nowhere, I had it the third year in a row. But as far as the book, so like I said, I always knew that I would be an author. So the idea for the book, I knew I wanted to write one. And I was like, I really want to write one. I remember praying, like, wow, God, like, I really, really want to write one. And I don't know what I want it to be about. And then it's like God kind of whispers to me, write yourself a love letter challenge, like, bring it to life or whatever. And I was just like, okay, well, so I'm like, what do I put? You know, what do I put in here? Like, do I talk about my own self-love journey? And I remember opening up the Google Doc November 30th, 2018, and I finished April 2nd, 2020. So, and it wasn't my process. People ask me all the time, like, what's your writing process? Like, I think because I've been a writer for so long, it's not difficult writing. What was difficult for me was focusing and finishing, which is important. Like, I could put words together, but getting me to sit down, and
you get sidetracked easily.
Oh, super easy. I had to
turn into 2 months.
Exactly. My original plan was
No, you good.
Okay. My original plan was to release it on my birthday, which is March 17th. I wanted to release it on my birthday this year, but I did not meet my deadline. I was bullshitting because around the time, like, I started a new job that I eventually got laid off of, but that's okay. Started a new job, was having my event, and event planning season is so, like, it's stressful, like, because I secured my venue in December and January, and then I got fired from a nonprofit that I was working for. Then I started a new job, but then Rona came. So 2 weeks into starting a new job, oh, you got to work from home. Then, like, 2 weeks after working from home, oh, y'all getting laid off.
Fuck
so
up.
So it's like, but getting me to sit down, like, so started in November of 2018, started writing, probably did not touch it for like a year. I ain't really even get serious about meeting the first deadline until like October of 2019, where I was writing, like I was adding to it. And then late March it kind of kicked in. I was just like, yeah, okay, I'm ready now. Like let's get it. So I took my time, but I had to leave. I left social media like for 5 days. Like, and my friends did a really great job of holding me accountable. Like, they'll see me like lurking, be like, you supposed to be writing. Yeah. They be like, nope, you need to be writing. You supposed to be writing. Do not come back in the group chat until you are finished. You tell us it's finished. And so I finished at like 12:32 in the morning, April 2nd. I was like, wow. It's finished. And it didn't hit me until like I ordered the author's copy. Like, they give you a proof of what your book's gonna look like before like you press publish on Amazon, because I went through Amazon, and they were just like, it felt real. I was like, wow, I really sat up here and I wrote a whole book. Like, I really wrote a book. And I was just like, and then it dawned on me again. I was like, wow, you like completed a lifelong goal. Like, this was one of your biggest goals, and like you did it.
Published author.
I'm an author. Like, and that's what I am. Like, I'm an author. And it was just like, that's crazy. Like, it's really crazy. It still feels really, really surreal. But that is the story of how things came to be, how I am now an author.
Now let me ask you, is your book guy friendly?
It is guy friendly. So what's crazy is all my stuff is like, I created with women in mind because I am a woman, but the guys gravitate towards me. And I don't know if it's because guys can relate to me, guys feel safe being vulnerable. I really don't know what it is, how I attracted this male audience. I know where they originally came from, because when I was a hip-hop blogger, you know, the hip-hop field is like male dominated. So, you know, who is this? And it was back in the day, it was, who is this girl that's interviewing all these rappers? You know, like, let me tap in, like, let me get in tune. And then the audience kind of just like stayed with me and grew. Like, I love having conversations with men about all types of stuff. We can talk about anything. And to answer your question, yep, it's guy friendly. It's a lot of, so with my book, what you'll see is, here you go. What you'll see that I have love letters. So my old love letters that I wrote to myself over the years. And then I have questions for the reader to answer, and you can write in this. So that's why I always suggest for people to get the paperback version. It is available on Kindle, but get the paperback version, because you need to feel it, you need to see it, it's like a journal, essentially. That's why it's called a part journal, a part manifesto, because you can write in it. You're gonna be self-reflecting, you know. And then a manifesto is a declaration, a statement. So you're reading basically my declaration, my journey, a little bit of my journey into self-love and loving myself.
All right, now you just spoke on how easy it is for you to have conversations with men about some of everything, which brings me to Venus versus Mars.
Okay.
You started a IG Live show.
Yep.
Did you see it as an important thing to give both men and women that platform to be open and honest with each other?
Absolutely, because I just think about my friends. Like, we have conversations about literally any and everything. And it's kind of just like, I think it's important for people to see, like, you know, it doesn't always, people think like, oh, this your typical battle of the sexes debate. It's not your average one, because number one, like, if I'm talking to one of my friends, my friends probably do something that's very important, so I'm sharing my platform with them. Number two, I love picking brains, so like, let's see how you think about these things. Like, what do you think about these things? Like, we have conversations about everything, right? What do you think about this? How do other people feel about this? You know, and it's not oh, I'm right, you're wrong, different things like that, but it's more of a, let's see where our heads are and see if we could just understand each other. I think it's very important to like just try to understand people, especially the opposite sex.
All right, so if you could go back and tell yourself, like younger you, if you can give yourself any advice, what would it be?
If I could give myself any advice, this is such a great question. I would tell myself that I don't have to conform to fit other people's desires of me, fantasies of me. Like, I could just be myself, essentially, and don't try to be what I think other people would like. And it took me a very, very long time to like get comfortable in my own skin and comfortable being myself, because sometimes the people around us try to influence us to be things or to dim our lights just to make themselves feel comfortable. And like that was something I picked up on very, very early. But instead of pushing back on that and saying, yo, like I don't care what you like or I don't care how you think I should be. This is me and I'm okay with me, and if you don't like it, you can leave. And that go for any and everybody, moms, dads, cousins, boyfriends, any and everybody. It doesn't matter. So I would tell myself, just be like, it's super cliche, but be yourself. Because I never really had an issue with like believing in myself. When it came to my dreams and stuff, I'm very impulsive. So it's kind of just like, I'm scared, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So I can't say that like fear held me back, but I used to be very uncomfortable with like just being myself and being comfortable with myself and being vocal about who I am and what I'm about. So
I appreciate you for coming through, chopping it up with me. Can you let the people know where they can find you, where they can get your book, where they can find everything that Kia has going on?
Okay, so the best way to get in contact with me is social media. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Kia Smith Writes. It's the same handle across both. I post a variety of content. You never know what you're gonna get. But I mean, I'm a real person, so, and I understand that like I'm very multifaceted. And again, with the conforming thing, I'm not going to be like what you think a blogger should be like, what you think an author should be like, what you think a journalist should be like. I'm just gonna be me. So you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Kia Smith Writes. My book is available on Amazon, but it's also available on my website. Now, the best thing about ordering from my website, if you order from my website, your book will be personally signed by me. I write everybody a message, basically thanking them for supporting me and buying my book. And it also comes in a custom Kia Smith Writes bag. So, with like my logo on it. So you can buy my book from KiaSmithWrites.com, and it's on Amazon too.
All right. Once again, I appreciate you for coming through, chopping it up for me. This has been another episode of Conversations with Jay.
Thanks for having me.
No doubt.
Yo, it's the Big Pod, Swain Session Podcast. Hey, check us out on the Illinois app right now.